So the new book is called Rage is Back. I'm going to read a real early part from it. The narrator is a kid named Dondi Vance. He's 18 years old. He's the son of two famous graffiti writers, a guy named Rage, Billy Vance, a.k.a. Rage, a.k.a. Billy Rage, and a woman named Ren209, Karen, a.k.a. Ren209. He's grown up with his mother because his father was forced to flee the country when he was about 3 years old due to some lawsuits and criminal charges he was facing. There's a whole long story about why, but it's not important to this segment. He attends a prestigious Manhattan prep school that he refers to as Whoop-de-Woo Ivy League Weezacumming Academy. But he's recently been expelled from it for selling weed. So he's crashing with different people. I'm trying to think what else. He's a biracial kid. His father Billy is white and mother Karen is black. So freeloading is exhausting. It's all conversation, no alone time, and for the only child of a single mother like your boy here, solitude is the base of the mental health food pyramid. The grain and bread group of not losing my shit rather than the occasional chili cheese Frito-esque indulgence some people seem to find. It was Saturday afternoon and I couldn't think of a single person I could bear to kick it with. Tomorrow I was scheduled to house sit for Nick Fizz, one of Karen's homeboys from the High School of Art and Design. A real graffiti hotbed back in the early 80s that had funneled a lot of kids right into the short-lived gallery scene. Karen had gotten a trip to London out of her fine arts career and sold one canvas for enough money to cover her inaugural semester at City College. It was a big aerosol portrait of this old-school rapper named Melly Mel, and she'd be the first to tell you that it was hideous and is almost certainly locked away in a storage unit now regardless of the coked-up price tag. Fizz, meanwhile, was the exception to the rule, a graph success story. He'd been smart enough to sidestep the crack epidemic that had turned 40% of New York's writers into dealers and another 40 into fiends in the mid-'80s. Had sufficient foresight or small enough cojones to retire from trains before the buffs started decimating the best lines in 1986, forcing everybody to crowd onto the J's, M's, B's, and L's like emergency rafts, and then killing the scene entirely, eternally by '88. Weird that all these so-called hip-hop heads consider '88 the apex of the golden era when it was also the year graffiti died. Anyway, Fizz decided it was graphic design he loved, not vandalism, and started an ad agency. Now he's right back on the trains, all city by virtue of the cheesy banners lining the insides of every car. Saturation bombing at its most annoying, except that instead of some teenager's messy mop tag repeated and repeated and repeated, it's visit the Bronx Zoo or earn your degree at DeVry College. His crib was bright and spacious, decorated with the kind of pink fur Kangol flair only a gay Puerto Rican b-boy can pull off. Thank you, finally. Fuck, you know, I've read this like 5 times and I'm always like, thank you, shit. Better yet, Fizz lived on 108th and Broadway, half a block from the best Dominican restaurant in the city, La Rosita, which I discovered through this older chick from Whoop-de-Woo Ivy League Weezacumming Academy who was my peer mentor when I started there in 7th grade and who actually took the concept seriously and schooled me on which teachers to avoid like the zombie death plague and which like the common cold, what culinary options the neighborhood afforded, how to restrain myself from smacking the tonsils out of some ignorant rich kid at least twice a day, that sort of thing. She was the only black girl in her class, which is why the administration hooked us up. Fuck it, I thought, why wait for tomorrow when you can have tomorrow today? I hopped the I hopped the 2 Express to Dumbo, which is this stupid yuppie acronym meaning down under Manhattan Bridge overpass, like hardy har, we live in a flying elephant. And made my way to this one particular building I'd recently discovered. I'm not going to say exactly where it's located, although I guess you could figure it out by process of elimination if you spent long enough in the neighborhood, which was not a neighborhood at all a few years back, just a wedged-in ghost town of moldering factories and deserted cobblestone alleys. I haven't bothered to find out what the building was before they gutted and kind of minimized it. If I were a different type of kid, I'd have visited some dim, windowless city planning office, claimed I was doing a school project, and gone down to the basement and unrolled a set of decomposing blueprints beneath a flickering yellow lamp and had some kind of revelation. Your boy here, I figured out as much as I needed to know and then left it alone. I'm crap at science to begin with, so if there's some monumental discovery about wormholes and the rending of space-time to be made, I'm not going to be the guy who makes it. Nor am I foolish enough to run my jibs and blow my own spot. End up getting my foot run over by Stephen Hawking's wheelchair or some shit. Sorry, I don't mean to be mysterious. The deal is this. If you enter the stairwell of this building at lobby level and walk 14 flights up to the penthouse, which nobody would on account of there's a very nice elevator tricked out with mirrors and wood paneling, and it always seems to be idling right there, doors open no less, you emerge on the 15th floor having traveled exactly 24 hours into the future. And no, smart guy, you can't walk down and go back. That would be hot, obviously. You could make a fortune a la Back to the Future 2. It was the first thing I tried. I'm going to say this once and then I promise I won't come back to it, or even address the reader in second person anymore, which I can see getting annoying very quickly, seeing as most people want to lose themselves in stories, not open a book and have a finger pointing at them all the time, unless it's a pop-up book. If you're already frowning and thinking I'm an unreliable narrator or going, oh goody, I love magical realism, then you should cut your losses and go read Tuesdays with Maury or some shit. Skepticism is an admirable trait, but so is asking yourself if you're really such a fucking master of the universe that things might not be happening beneath the surface of your world right now without you knowing. Or even in midair when your back's turned. I mean, hell, they didn't discover the duck-billed platypus until 1896, and then everybody thought it was a hoax because mammals aren't supposed to lay eggs, you feel me? I've thought about it a lot, and as far as I can tell, there's very little advantage to be gained by jumping one day forward. It seems like there should be, but really you're behind. You missed work, school, you don't know if the Yankees won. Also, and who knows, maybe this is just me, whenever I get my H.G. Wells on, I step into the future feeling like absolute shit on a shingle. Throbbing headaches, spangly vision, queasy stomach, a general desire to curl up and die that lasts an hour, maybe two. It didn't happen the first time before I knew what I was doing, so quite possibly it's not travel sickness but some psychological aversion to flouting cosmic law, giving physics the finger. The whole thing reminds me of this game I used to play with my boy Cedric in 6th grade where we'd invent these doofus superheroes. Like the Salamanderer, who has the regenerative powers of an amphibian. If you cut off his arm, it grows back weaker and smaller in about 6 weeks. Or Diner Man, who's totally invincible, but only in diners. Spends his time trying to convince supervillains to grab some pie. Or this dude we never got around to naming, whose power was that he could fly 6 inches off the ground. We used to convulse on the floor of my bedroom laughing at this stuff. It wasn't until recently that I realized it was like a metaphor for something. The reason I didn't take the elevator up to 15 to begin with is that I figured the stairwell in this yupster breeding tube would be as good a place as any to pinch a bowl out of my customer's bag and get zooted. You can't risk smoking on the street these days, especially not with a messenger bag full of $60 to $80 8 ounces of bomb OG Kush in miniature mason jars slung across your chest. Plus, unlike most people my age, I only smoke from glass pipes. To me, blunts are disgusting. You can't even taste the weed. That might be the point if you're smoking bullshit from the local herb gate, but to roll cannabis cup caliber marijuana in some filthy, stale Dutch Master cigar and then seal it with your own rank slobber is an insult to everybody. Is an insult to everybody who took the time to plant, grow, dry, smuggle, and distribute. I'm also unusual in that I like to exercise when I'm high. Pretty much only when I'm high, actually. It motivates me or something, I don't know. 14 flights sounded like fun. So I blazed, climbed, slammed open the stairwell door, all out of breath, and gave a discreet little rapidy rap on the door of Penthouse A. People think weed heads are spacey and laid back, but not when they're waiting for their nuggets and worried that the delivery service isn't going to come through, which they seem to be every time, even if I've been providing quality customer service for a year.